Hi class, Dr. Warren here, and welcome to EDU601. So in this class, I want to give you a quick overview. In this class, you will be building your entire online course. So in the previous class, EDU602, you created your summative assessment, the final assessment that showed you that your students learned all those learning outcomes. They've developed all those skills that you spelled out in your learning outcomes, and that is demonstrated in your final summative assessment. You also created a formative assessment. A formative assessment is basically any assignment that's not the summative assessment. Any assignment that tells you how students are doing, how they're coming along, you give them feedback, that's a formative assessment, okay? So now you're going to go ahead and build those lessons, you're going to build those assignments that are going to get your students to that final summative assessment and demonstrate to you that they learned it all. Okay, we're using a really great theory called the Community of Inquiry Theory. It was developed by Garrison and his colleagues, Randy Garrison and his colleagues, and they are with a university up in Canada, a very remote university that uses online learning a lot. And so they came up with an online learning model that addressed the particularities of courses taught online. Let me introduce you to that theory. We're going to be using this theory throughout EDU601. So you're going to get really intimate with the theory, all right? Basically what they said is there's three components of an online course. There's the social presence. The social presence is the interacting with everybody in the class, other students, maybe TAs, maybe instructors, but it's this whole community that's happening at that time in that class, the social presence. And it's never the same. Every class is different because people are all different and the relationships they build together are different. And that's what the social presence is about, is building relationship, having dialogue, connecting with each other. Then you've got the teaching presence. I'm going to at the bottom here. The teaching presence is the instructor setting the climate. If you look at the interaction between the social presence, the red one, and the teaching presence, the green one, hopefully you're not colorblind, you can see setting climate. The teacher is all about establishing a warm environment, a welcoming environment, a place where students can feel vulnerable because they don't have answers, they're learning. So a place where you can learn, okay, where it's safe to learn. All right, the third one is the cognitive presence, right? And the cognitive presence is about the content. It's all about students engaging with the content, going through the lessons, doing the research, interacting with the activities. That's the cognitive presence, okay? And you can see that the teaching presence is also, it interacts with the cognitive presence through the guiding the students, regulating the learning, handing out new material when the students are ready. So the teacher is constantly gauging what's going on in the classroom and feeding information to students when they're ready. Now, there's also an interaction between cognitive presence and social presence, where we have this discourse. So have you ever noticed that you learn more when you talk about it with someone else and they give you feedback and you see it from their perspective? So this is this really powerful experience of interacting to discuss the learning and learning from each other. So that's the connection between the social presence and the cognitive presence, okay? So let's bring this back into EDU601. In week one, we use this model to start to develop your framework for module 1 and module 2, and if you have a module 3, you'll do it for that one too. You're starting to build your framework. You're kind of thinking about what lessons am I going to need to have in module 1 and module 2, so that by the time my students get to that big, hairy, summative assessment, they're going to be able to do it. So you're building those skills, those learning outcomes, to get them to the end of your class where you want them to know it all. All right, so in the cognitive presence, there's a thing called phases of cognitive presence, and believe me, you're going to love this because it's going to save you from going all over the place as you try to design your online course. So the nice thing about the phases of cognitive presence is that it gives you a framework for thinking about and designing your online course. So in cognitive presence, there's 4 kind of events in a lesson, or not a lesson, but in a module, okay? 4 events, they say. There's a triggering event. The triggering event is you're warming them up. It's no more than 5 minutes. It's not a lesson. It's not a full-blown experience. It's just something to kind of establish curiosity and warm them up and kind of get them excited and interested in what you're about to teach them. Triggering event could be a comic, could be a video, could be just a little activity or exercise, something really fun. No more than 5 minutes though, usually. Pardon me. So then we've got the exploration event, okay? The exploration is the lesson, okay? So hold on a second, let's get there. Okay, so the exploration is the lesson. I call it the lesson, okay? Whoops, not the lesion, the lesson. All right, so the lesson is them going out and looking at, you're giving them resources, you're giving them videos, you're giving them things to help them kind of learn the material, learn the ideas, the concepts in the material, they're exploring the topic, right? Then comes the integration. Now that is the activity. And that is where they're interacting with the material, they're applying the learning, they're taking what they've learned, maybe they're going out in the field and doing something with what they've learned, maybe they're doing an online game, maybe they're writing a paper, and I really don't want to see any papers in your materials because papers are not authentic. You learned about authentic learning. Authentic learning is where you're applying it to the real world. So in your courses, your students should be applying all that activity to the real world. No quizzes, no papers. We'll talk about it if you have quizzes and papers in your class, okay? So we talk about the real world activities, practicing the skills, you know, sharing perspectives. They might be a peer or group activity, something. And then the resolution is, you know, the so what? It's the reflection, the journal, the, you know, kind of why is what I just did, what I just learned, why is it important? What is the meaning to me? Why does it have anything to do with my life, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do is create phases of cognitive presence for your module 1 and then for your module 2. So you're going to actually double this and you're going to download it from the classroom in the draft, in week 1 draft. And then you're going to do a module 1 and a module 2. And if you have a module 3, then you'll do it there. What I'm going to ask you to do, though, is hold off on the triggering event and start thinking about what skills are your learners going to need to have to get them to that final summative assessment. What are you going to have to teach them? You know, how many different skills are you going to have to teach them? Write those down and think about it. And then think about how you're going to parse them out into module 1 and module 2. Okay, I'm going to teach these 1 or 2 skills in module 1 and these 2 or 3 skills in module 2. And by the time they get those skills down, then they're going to be able to do that final summative assessment, okay? When we talk in our welcome call, I will go through this with you. So the sooner you can have your welcome call with me, the sooner you will have a pretty good framework of, you will know pretty much what you're going to be teaching in module 1 and what you're going to be teaching in module 2. Again, I'm here to model for you. I'm here to show you how to think through the use and the application of these theories into the practical nature of you building your online course. I'm not expecting you to dive right in and know what to do here. So let's get that welcome call put together and it will make a lot more sense. And I probably will do a little tutorial on the phases of cognitive presence and how you kind of tackle that, okay? All right, let's go to back to the class for a second here. All right, so that's what the draft of module 1 is. Again, we've got the mentorship exchange. If we meet, so for the first week you have to do the mentorship exchange, and I believe there's points assigned to it now in this class. But then after that, if we have a live call, you do not have to do the mentorship exchange. If you and I talk by phone and go over your course together, then that satisfies this requirement for the mentorship exchange, okay? So in week 1, 2, and week 3, you're starting to work on you're finishing your module 1. Your module 1 is going to be done by the time you get to week 3, and hopefully you've got module 2 in the bag and starting to work with module 2 and designing those lessons and assignments as well. And then by the time you finish the class, modules 1 and 2 will be completed, okay? So we're basically using this theory, and also we're going to talk about social presence in these modules. In module, I think we started, yeah, module 4, week 4, and instructor presence in week 5. So we pull in the other 2, but they're a little bit easier to do. The cognitive presence is building the content of your course. And so that's why we're introducing it in week 1. We're getting that welcome call going so we can start to outline what you're going to be teaching in your course. And then throughout this class, EDU601, you will be building and refining your online course, and you will be finished with it, and it'll look really super sweet and amazing by the time you get to week 6, okay? So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to meeting you if I haven't yet, and seeing your class if I haven't yet. And let's talk. Okay, that's it. Thank you. See you in the welcome call. Bye.